You step outside on a brutal winter morning. The wind bites at your face. Your breath crystallizes in the freezing air before you, turning into a fine white mist. You hurry back toward the glowing warmth of your house. Are you completely unaware of the tiny frozen corpse buried just inches beneath the snow near your porch? It is as solid as a rock. Its eyes are milky and unseeing. To the naked eye, it looks utterly and completely dead. It feels cold and stiff to the human touch. Would you ever believe that this tiny block of ice is actively fighting an evolutionary war? For millions of years, the wood frog has not fled the freezing winters. It has not dug deep underground to escape the frost like other fragile creatures. It has embraced the devastating power of the cold to conquer it completely. This is not a simple hibernation cycle. Why would a living animal willingly subject itself to a frozen grave? This behavior stems from an ancient and brutal evolutionary battle. The boreal forests of North America are completely unforgiving. Survival meant finding a way to endure months of subzero temperatures without starving to death. Escaping to warmer southern climates was simply impossible for such a small creature. How did their primitive DNA solve this massive ecological problem? They evolved to literally pause their own existence. Imagine the deep and ancient woodlands thousands of years ago. The autumn leaves turn brown and begin to fall rapidly. The temperature plummets as the days grow dangerously short and dark. Does the wild wood frog panic like the birds and the mammals? It does not panic at all. It stays right near the frozen surface of the soil. It finds a shallow depression under some decaying dead leaves. It just sits there and waits quietly for the cold. Why does it intentionally stay in the most dangerous freezing zone? It stays near the surface because it absolutely needs to thaw quickly in the spring. It is a calculated and terrifying gamble with mortality. If it buries itself too deeply beneath the frost line, it will wake up too late to breed. It sacrifices its own physical safety for a massive reproductive advantage. Can you imagine risking your life just to be the first one to wake up? The environment turns incredibly hostile. The first touch of winter frost penetrates the damp leaf litter. An ice crystal brushes against the bare, sensitive skin of the amphibian. An invisible alarm bell rings loudly inside its tiny nervous system. What exactly happens inside its biological machinery at this terrifying moment? The liver instantly kicks into severe chemical overdrive. It begins pumping massive and highly toxic amounts of sugar directly into the bloodstream. In a human being, this catastrophic level of blood sugar would cause immediate diabetic coma and inevitable death. For the wood frog, it is the ultimate biological weapon against the freezing cold. Have you ever wondered how nature builds its own internal antifreeze? Biologists and researchers like Dr. Kenneth Story at Carleton University have spent decades decoding this exact molecular miracle. They discovered something completely alien to normal vertebrate biology. This massive flood of sugar acts as a potent cryoprotectant. You can simply think of a cryoprotectant as a thick, sugary syrup that coats the inside of every single living cell. Why is this sweet syrup a literal matter of life and death? Water is the ultimate enemy when the temperature drops. As water freezes, it expands rapidly and forms jagged, microscopic shards of ice. If the water inside a living cell freezes, those shards act like microscopic daggers that shred the delicate cell walls from the inside out. By turning its intracellular fluid into thick syrup, the frog keeps those tiny daggers from forming. Is this not the most brilliant chemical defense mechanism in the wild forest? The frog also utilizes its own biological waste. It holds its urine for many weeks before the winter fully arrives. The urea builds up heavily in its tiny bloodstream. This normally toxic waste product joins forces with the sugar to lower the freezing point of the animal's internal organs even further. Who would have ever thought that holding your bladder could save you from freezing to death? The external temperature continues to plummet relentlessly. The topsoil cools to a bitter -15 degrees Celsius. The creeping frost moves relentlessly over the frog's damp skin. The blood flowing through its tiny veins begins to turn into a cold slush. How long can an animal hold on while its bodily fluids turn to solid ice? The physical changes are absolutely horrifying. Ice crystals shoot rapidly through the abdominal cavity. Up to 65% of the total water inside the body turns into solid, unforgiving ice. The outer extremities freeze completely solid in the dark. Can any living creature truly endure this level of extreme physical trauma? The tiny heart struggles against the thickening blood. It beats weakly one single time. It beats incredibly slowly a second time. Then, with a final biological shudder, It stops completely. How can life possibly continue when the central engine of the body falls completely silent? The lungs stop breathing entirely. The brain activity flatlines into complete electrical silence within the skull. If a modern veterinarian examined this creature right now, they would declare it legally dead without any hesitation. There is absolutely no pulse, no breath, and no brainwave. Does biological death always mean the absolute end of the story? For the wild wood frog, death is just a temporary waiting room. Weeks turn into agonizingly long and brutal months. Heavy winter snow blankets the silent, freezing forest floor. Blizzards howl through the bare branches of the ancient trees above. What is happening in the terrifying silence of that frozen, amphibious body? Absolutely nothing is happening at all. There is no active metabolism functioning in the darkness. There is no aging process occurring at the microscopic cellular level. Time has literally stopped for this tiny creature trapped completely beneath the ice. Could this incredible adaptation be the closest thing to true immortality on Earth? Predatory owls and starving gray wolves roam the surface above. They desperately search the thick snow for any scrap of warm meat. They walk right over the hidden frog without ever pausing. They do not smell it because it produces absolutely no living scent. How could a starving predator detect a creature that emits no heat and makes no sound? It has effectively erased its own presence from the entire ecosystem. It is a phantom trapped in a frozen shell of its own making. This brings this story to a bizarre and paradoxical twist of evolutionary engineering. To survive the devastating power of the ice, the frog does not fight the freezing process at all. Would it surprise you to know that it actively invites the deadly ice inside? Nature has equipped it with specialized ice-nucleating proteins. Instead of fighting desperately to stay warm, the frog uses these proteins as molecular seeds to force the ice to form early. It intentionally pulls the freezing water out of its vital organs and into the empty spaces around them. It purposely freezes its outer layers to build an icy shield that protects its inner core. Has any other creature turned the weapon of its greatest enemy into its own armor? The very thing that should kill it becomes the fortress that preserves it. The brutal winter eventually begins to break its grip. Spring arrives slowly and warmly in the northern hemisphere. The sun breaks through the bare forest canopy and strikes the damp floor. Will the gentle warmth be enough to finally wake the dead? The heavy snow begins to melt into small puddles. The cold earth warms up degree by degree. The temperature of the shallow soil finally rises just above the freezing point. The frog is still a rigid, lifeless block of ice beneath the leaves. What exactly triggers the sudden resurrection of a completely frozen biological machine? The miraculous thaw happens slowly from the inside out. The core warms just enough to melt the icy slush around the vital inner organs. The heart, which has been perfectly still for up to 8 agonizing months, suddenly twitches in the dark. It beats a single time in the silence. Do you realize how miraculous a spontaneous heartbeat truly is after months of death? It beats a second time. The thick, sugary blood begins to flow through the slowly thawing veins. The frozen brain sparks back to life with a sudden rush of electrical activity. The massive amounts of protective sugar are quickly packed back away into the liver for future storage. How does a previously frozen corpse suddenly remember how to breathe again? The lungs pull in their first ragged breath of warm spring air. The eyes lose their milky glaze and become crystal clear once again. Water rushes back inside the dehydrated cells, inflating them to their normal, healthy size. Within 24 hours, this creature that was legally dead is moving normally. Can you believe it simply hops away as if nothing happened at all? It emerges completely undamaged by the terrifying ordeal. It immediately begins looking for a vernal pool to find a mate and lay its tiny eggs. It has beaten the frost, outsmarted the starving predators, and completely cheated death itself. It is a mastery of biochemistry that human scientists are still desperately trying to replicate for organ transplants and deep space travel. Is the ultimate secret to human preservation hiding right now in the rotting leaf litter? The answers to our greatest medical mysteries might just be buried beneath the damp leaves of the wild forest. The impossible survival of this creature redefines everything known about the fragile line between life and death. So, the next time you step outside on a brutal winter morning, hurrying back to the warmth of your house, look down at the frozen ground. Are you completely unaware of the tiny frozen corpse waiting silently in the cold? It is not dead at all. It is just pausing its life, mastering the frost, and waiting for the sun to call it back from the grave. If you want to uncover more brutal and brilliant survival secrets of the natural world, make sure to hit the subscribe button and join the channel for the next deep dive into the wild.